Taita ola mthokazo muhle Zimbabwe muhle khwazwayi muri Zimbabwe ndinomkamchira mchirongwa chedu cheve chidiki uhlelo The Connection lelami uMike Hove lingali chona njani mthokazo muhle Zimbabwe muhle wonke umuntu ongenayo kuhlelo niyakwamukela kuhlelo lwethu labasakhulayo uhlelo The Connection. If you're tuned in right now, you're tuned in to Live Talk The Connection, brought to you by Studio 7 Voice of America on Tuesday, the 10th of November, 2020. Muri Zimbabwe mthokazo muhle. I'm your host, Mike Hove. Before we kickstart our program, Muri Zimbabwe, Rombo silusizi ngempela. We apologize, Muri Zimbabwe. We're not able to bring you this program live as per usual. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, for those watching the stream, you can see we're all working from home. I am working from home. What this means is you're not able to call into the program as per usual. However, you can still give your input using our WhatsApp number, +1 202 465 0318. Chirongwa The Connection muyineni Mike Hove nasi mchirongwa namhla kuhlelo siqhubekela phambili sithinta udaba lomkhuhlane we-COVID-19. Unfortunately muri Zimbabwe sezwa ndambotsana ngurangu nasi mchirongwa we're not able to this is not a live program saka mkwanisa kupinda mshandisa runare asi munokwanisa kutitumira maondero enyu pa WhatsApp pa number zinoti +1 202 465 0318. Tonight on The Connection, we continue the conversation on our coronavirus, COVID-19. Is speaking to youth as we focus on how COVID-19 has affected Zimbabwe as a nation. Now, unfortunately, due to the fact that Nasi Chirongwa Chedu is pre-recorded, we're not able to give you up-to-date facts. However, we can still highlight and give you the round figures that we have currently as we're about to go on air. As we speak, Muri Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe currently has over 8,400 confirmed COVID-19 cases. The death toll is standing at over 250, and there are over 7,900 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Once again, due to the fact that this program is pre-recorded, by the time we go on air, there's a large possibility that these figures and numbers would have changed, but those are the figures that we currently are working with right now. To repeat, in the country, over 8,400 cases of COVID-19. The death toll is at over 250, and there are over 7,900 confirmed recoveries in the country. Now, the data released by the Ministry of Health on their official Twitter page and their official YouTube and Facebook page, the ministry reveals that the most affected areas in Zimbabwe right now are Harare and Bulawayo. Bulawayo and Harare combined have registered over 180 deaths. Once again, over 180 deaths. A majority of these deaths, at least 120 of those are in Harare and the rest are in Bulawayo. This populates and this formulates a majority of the deaths registered in Zimbabwe. So of those 250, 180 are in Harare and Bulawayo. Why are these figures so high? What's happening in Harare and Bulawayo? Are people taking the necessary precautions to prevent the spread of COVID-19? Are the youth, what can the youth of the nation do to help these numbers decrease? We reached out to Nkosikhona Dibiti, the founder of Community Podium TV. He's one of the people that are going to be joining us. Community Podium TV have a segment or have a program whereby they focus on COVID-19 analysis in Zimbabwe. So we reached out to Nkosikhona Dibiti to hear more about what exactly is happening in places such as Bulawayo and Harare, and of course, what can the youth do to help in the fight against COVID-19? Let's head over to my interview with Nkosikhona Dibiti to hear more.
From what I've seen is there's a general complacency around the updates that we have right now. People are no longer taking it as serious as they used to before. General attitude that is there, but you find that is still business as usual. Well, now there is no roadblocks stopping people from moving from point A to point B. So it's getting normal, but I should say today, your grade 3s, 2s, and 1s started going to school as well. So which means school is fully fledged. So it's an issue that is quite critical, especially within our area is Bulawayo. So as parents, we're deliberating on whether our kids safe to go there because we've seen a lot of deaths and a lot of positive cases, particularly in Bulawayo, Konala. So I think we need to start having more of these conversations and awareness, intensify awareness around these issues, because when the borders finally open on the 1st of December, wow, that would be very chaotic actually. So we would rather have these conversations and also tighten up abantu bengafuni ukuluswa, abantu bebekwazi ukuthi na information ibuya isithi lokhu it's within our emzini, kusemzini wethu sibili kumele sibone iplan.
Now, David, what role do you think complacency or fatigue, for lack of a better word, I'll say fatigue. What role do you think it plays right now in terms of the spike in COVID cases? Because we've had a lot of conversations with people on the ground. Kulabanye abantu bathi hayi sesikhathele ngale COVID, we're tired, and they've become complacent. What role would you say that's playing in terms of the spike in COVID cases, not just in Bulawayo, but in Zimbabwe?
Yeah, the fatigue, it's too much. People no longer want to hear. You find that right now it's too hot, like there's a heat wave, and you find people, like it's just dropping under the mouth, and that's it. Because there people tell you, the white corona, whatever, we don't care. Every public transport is carrying full capacity, there's no issue. So this can actually, maybe these results can actually be a rude awakening for us to say, okay, this thing is not gone. We might be tired about hearing, wash your hands, sanitize, social distance, but it's still around. We need to take the precautionary measures.
Now, since the identification, if we're going to zone back in on Bulawayo, since March up until today, we've heard areas, the hotspots have been identified in Bulawayo, places like Country Park and Pumula. Have people changed the way that they conduct themselves in those areas, like hotspots?
The problem with the hotspots is there is no water. Those hotspots, they have no water. They are the ones, Pumula and Country Park are one of the areas that have serious water problems than any other areas, because they have fewer boreholes and things like that. So you find that people gather too much waiting for water pausas, especially in Pumula's out there, water pausas and stuff like that. So you find that people are also crowding a lot now, even the water crisis that we are facing as a city. So you find that within that space, than in areas where, like in the CBD and things like that. So with the schools opening now, in those same areas where there is no water, it's quite a big challenge that we have in front of us. But particularly Pumula, Lake Country Park, hey, amanzi ayahlupha. You see it all the time, people complaining about water, and having and seeing them queuing in long queues, even as late as in the evening, because people need water to get by.
Now, I would like to zone in on the healthcare system in general, Bulawayo. Since March up until today, there's been talk of quarantine centers. There's been talk of some hospitals being used as testing centers and so forth. Could you give us an overview of what's happening in Bulawayo with regards to the healthcare sector?
Well, I most of the information that I have is media reports where we hear that UPH is ready to take care of COVID-19 patients and things like that. But the healthcare sector has its own crisis. So this is adding on to what is already there. So we see in the media, we see Joshua Mkabu, they're looking for beds to capacitate the hospital. It's still not open, but I haven't heard much about the Thorngrove Quarantine Center. I heard about it the time when the COVID was at its peak. So I think it's areas that we need to look into, but the fatigue, it seems the fatigue is everywhere, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It can be within the people, it can be within maybe the health sector, to try to strengthen in terms of the testing and encouraging people to test and where to test, because there's this information which testing is paid for. So, well, if you are paid for, we are paying for the testing, people would rather stay at home. But those who want to travel always sacrifice and pay the cost that is already there. So, yeah, that's the issue now, to say health wise we need maybe awareness around this issue from the health institution, to say we are in this lokuza lizo tester, we are testing for free, those who test for free, and also to alert us like which places are quarantine centers. For example, if Country Park is the peak, what happens in Country Park? Is there something going on in Country Park where people can be isolated? Right there in Country Park where there is the peak, we haven't had conversations around that from the respective authorities. From a citizen's point of view, angikwazi what was going on.
Bese sithinta ke udaba lolu ngolimi lukaMama David, and then we'll move over to indaba eyendlala, i-drought and i-documentary njenge-community podium. Siyabona ukuthi umkhuhlane lo we-COVID-19 ulokhu yokuqhubekela phambili umemetheka, ikakhulukazi koBulawayo kanye laseHarare. Abantu endaweni lezi ikakhulukazi sikhangela eCountry Park njalo ePhumula, abantu bathini ngokumemetheka kwalo mkhuhlane?
Now ukhuluma labantu, abantu sebefuna okay, people want sebefuna ukuya phambili ngempilo. Uzathola ukuthi khathesi kunzima ukuthi uqale sokuhlaliswa abantu phansi ukuthi hey corona isakhona lani, ngoba abantu sebesithi impilo sesiya phambili. Nanko ke izikolo sezivuliwe lazo ukuthi sokuyiwa phambili, abantwana sebesiya esikolo, la sesilungisela abantwana ukuthi beye esikolo. So khathesi sikhuluma kunje izikolo sezivuliwe sibili, anti kwakuvulwa ama stages. Khathesi wonke umntwana lalo ongabe ku grade 0 usesesikolo khathesi. So okunjwa ukuthi khona wonke umuntu impilo vele sibuyele back to normal. And nasikhangela ukuthi coronavirus isakhona, kuba lohlupho kakhulu ngoba izakhamizi sezikuthathela khatshana, sezidiniwe. Ngakho ukuzwa khona corona uphinde silohlupho lwamanzi. So uzathola ukuthi kwesikhathi nxa uxoxisana lezakhamizi yakwanisa ukutshela ukuthi zwana usakhuluma ngokwe-corona lokho, sinike namanzi aphume empompini sizokuthi sigeze izandla singayimelela amabhawuza sezinto ezinjengazo lezo. Kuba luhlupho futhi ukuthi khona kanti abantu siyabancedisa njani, ngoba kumele ukuthi benjani, bedinga amanzi lawa kumabhawuza lasezibhoraneni lapho kuyabe kugcwele khona abantwana. Khathesi abantwana laba sebesiya esikolo, kuluhlupho kakhulu, especially koBulawayo njengoba ama-deaths sekhwela, labantu abele coronavirus bekhwela. Kumele ukuthi sihlale phansi futhi siqalise kutsha ukuthi singenza njani ukuthi sincedisane, sisilohlupho lwamanzi osolwehlele idorobha la koBulawayo njalo. Kodwa
bayazama yini ngamandla bonke ukuvikela ukubanjwa kwalomkhuhlane? Bayagqoka yini ama-mask? Ushilo ngempela ukuthi kuyahlupha ukugeza izandla, kodwa abo sanitizer labo bakhona. Bayakuzama yini konke lokhu bengaminyani endaweni ezijiyeneyo?
Hey, kunzima kakhulu, especially emalokishini. Ukugqoka imask kwalutshwana. Ubona umuntu egqoka imask sibili noma esibhoraneni, kwalutshwane kakhulu ukubona abantu begqoka ama-mask ezibhora indaweni ezigcwele abantu khona. Okugqoka khona ama-mask kusemagrosa lapho uthi nxa ungena vele kumele ube le mask, awungeni nxa ungela mask. Otherwise okuningi lokho endaweni zokuthatha khona amanzi kumelele libhawuza, uyathola abantu bezimele nje bengelala ama-mask. So ukuthi ubhubhane lolu solukhona njalo ama-specific areas wona lawo ophumula labo Country Park, izakhamizi kumele ukuthi zinjani zincediswe kakhulu, njengeBulawayo yonke nje sincedisane futhi sikala ukuthi si raise awareness ukuthi abantu lokho besifa abantu, and abafayo bakho khatshana bakhona khona lapha phakathi kwethu. So uhlupho esesilalo khathesi izakhamizi zilama reasons ukuthi asingeke sikwanise ukwenza social distancing, anti simelela ibhawuza. Ungamelela ibhawuza abantu lapha bakungenela igcina ungasela amanzi abantwana kusasa baye esikole izinto ezinjengazo lezo so kwesinye isikhathi kuba nzima ukuthi sisebenze lezakhamizi ngoba izakhamizi lazo ziyabe zilama challenges eziwafesayo wabona la ukuthi maye lapha kungathiwani ngoba sila immediate solution ngokwakathesi.
Now, Dibiti, besesithinta-ke indaba yendlala, hunger. That seemed to be one of the aspects that affected Zimbabweans across the whole nation. And it was even made worse by the coronavirus pandemic. What are people in Bulawayo saying when we talk about hunger and access to food?
Hey, indlala ikhona. Ngifuna ukugamba manga sibili indlala ikhona. Khathesi uzathola ukuthi khona abantu abasebenzayo sibili lonke besiya babalutshwane uzathola ukuthi khona abantu khathesi vele kobulawayo lapha abantu sebephila nge-assistance or i-aid from fellow brothers and sisters in the diaspora. Bengikhangela namhla sikhuluma ngakho ngokwetown bekugcwele kubo umkuru ama-line angikhona befika khonalo ubona ukuthi maybe sokuyizimali ze-school fees food lani kodwa abasebenza lapha sibile kunzima kakhulu siyabona even labasebenzela uhulumeni ukuthi bathwele nzima labo teacher bakaye emsebenzini ngoba bathi imali yakhona kanjani kayikwani so uzathola ukuthi khathesi izinto zonke sezithengiswa ngama-US dollar lama-rands so nxa ulale enye imali yethu yeZimbabwe ama-bond notes la ama-Zim dollar kuba nzima kakhulu ukuthi uthenga izinto ezibambekayo sibili so indlala sibili ikhona akumanga kuhle.
Which leads me to another thing that I would like to talk about, which is the documentary that you recently did with Community Podium TV. So that all of our audiences understand in this circumstance. Could you tell us a little more about the documentary? Because I saw you touched on hunger, I saw you touched on drought, and of course, other things that are now being pushed due to drought and climate change and so forth. Could you tell us a little more about that documentary?
Okay, the documentary, we did it in Cholocho and Lopane, where we were talking to communities that have been affected, particularly by climate change. So this climate change issue, drought, has resulted in wild animals living like their areas, like Ewange Safari, they are living their areas looking for water. So they are now coming into where their communities now. They come in, eat their crops, and some people have actually had victims, people who have been killed by elephants that we even interviewed in that documentary. So you find that the issues of climate change have affected those communities in Mad North heavily because by and large there's drought, but wild animals also come in, look for fresh vegetation and eat all their crops. And these guys were saying elephants move in the herds of like 60 to 70. So zingangena nje kuphela vele kungasela lutho, and if they meet anything they destroy. So you find that these are the issues that have really greatly affected our communities in terms of the climate change, the change of weather. So you find that when we're talking about climate change, those communities don't really understand what they are supposed to do when there is climate change. So they were highlighting that government has introduced a conservation farming program. Yes, so they were trying that out, but many were not convinced that that could be the solution. So you find that they are not so sure what to expect because they've lost a lot of money, a lot of resources, wasted time plowing. Animals come in, at times the stuff that they've plowed is dried because of lack of water. Some actually walk, like in Sotani, 26, they walk about 15 to 20 kilometers to look for water. So it's dry. It's actually very dry for both animals and for people there.
Before we're about to reach the tail end of our interview here at DBT, before we go back to kind of just giving advice to Zimbabwean youth about COVID-19, could you tell our listeners where they can find this documentary so that they can at least find it?
Okay, our documentary is on our Facebook page, Community Podium, and also on our YouTube account channel at Community Podium as well.
Could you leave parting words for Zimbabwean youths by also highlighting the important role that you think Zimbabwean youths should play in helping fellow countrymen during this time whereby there's a global pandemic?
Truth be told, we are the majority in this country, and there's so much that we can do together in terms of stopping the spread of COVID-19. At times we hear that people have died, and we might not have privy to have their ages. At times we just get the agenda, but you find that maybe it's one of us or two of us. So why not take charge, guys? Work together, share the knowledge. We are tech savvy, guys. We can share this information as quickly as possible across the country and help save lives, help those elderly people to understand what's going on, and even read out the information that comes out from the Ministry of Health and Childcare to say and interpret for them, what does it mean someone has recovered, what does it mean someone is positive, and also fight the stigma against when someone is stated positive for COVID-19, the stigma around it, this and that. Let's fight that and also make sure that this community is intact. Well, for the Bulawayo youths, I know we have a crisis of water. Let's assist in those boreholes. Let's assist in those bowsers and create that community type of assistance where we can then highlight, no, let's social distance, and enforce some of these things as young people. We can contribute so much for our country and for our community to be saved from this pandemic.
Sithanda ukubonga uNkosi khona Dibiti ngokungena kuhlelo. Siyabonga mnumzana Dibiti ngokungena kuhlelo. Thina thola mkana uno mukutenda va Nkosi khona Dibiti besangano re Community Podium TV kubulawayo ko vangachizeya nyaya zvekutekeshera kwechirwere cheCovid-19 especially muguta rebulawayo uko kunonzi kune vanhu vakawanda zvechokwadi vane vachivashaya nepamusoro pechirwere checoronavirus. Kumwewo futi kune vanhu vakati vawandei vakashaya nepamusana pechirwere ichi kuHarare. Ndambotsanangura tisati taita hurukuro yedu navadhibiti kuti tikabatanidza vanhu vashaya vari kuHarare nekubulawayo panokwanisa kutodarika vanhu vanodarika 180. Pari zvino munyika pane vanhu vanodarika 250 vashaya nepamusoro pechirwere ichi cheCovid-19. Saka tikabatanidza Bulawayo neHarare, both cities, ndivo vane vanhu vakati wandei zvechokwadi vari kuurawa nechirwere ichi cheCovid-19. So muri yeZimbabwe, you just heard there from Nkosi khona Dibiti. Thank you so much to Mr. Dibiti for taking time out to join us. He touched on several facets, which was COVID-19, what the youth can do to help reduce COVID-19 figures in Zimbabwe. And of course, he touched on a documentary that Community Podium TV has been working on. Makatirira chirongwa chedu chevechidiki uhlelo The Connection. Lilami uMike Hove. Muri yeZimbabwe musakangano kana muchida kuti pamaondero enyu +1 202 465 0318. That is the WhatsApp number.
In Lupane and Cholocho, a lot of households have been facing food insecurities due to human and wildlife conflicts and also climate change. In order to find out how these communities have been surviving, do check out the 2 documentaries by Community Podium. My name is Mzo7, aka Mr. Gagagogo.
Shout out to Mr. Gagagogo. Mzo7, he was highlighting there the work that Community Podium TV is doing. That's the conversation I heard earlier on with Nkosi khona Dibiti. Visit their Facebook pages, visit their YouTube page, Community Podium TV. Now, whilst on the same discussion of our coronavirus, COVID-19, vanodarika 250 munyika. Takabata zvekare nyanzvi over the past, since March, I'm sure matone nguva yakati rebei muchinzwa from nyanzvi dzakasiyana-siyana nyanzvi munyaya dzeutano. You've heard from several different health experts here on The Connection as they were talking about COVID-19. Now, one thing they've seemed to zone in on when it comes to COVID-19 affecting youth across the world is that majority of affected COVID-19 in terms of loss of life, when they are young people, majority of the time they are young people with what they underlying conditions, those being diabetes, those being issues with regards to heart, and several other issues. So what we've done is the month of November, for those that do not know, the month of November is World Diabetes Month. And on the 14th of November, the whole world, including Zimbabwe, is going to be celebrating Diabetes Day, International World Diabetes Day. So what we've done is we've reached out to a member of the Zimbabwe Diabetes Association, and he's also a COVID-19 survivor, Tinotenda Zikiti, for him to kind of break down to us what COVID-19 means for someone who has contracted, who has had diabetes, and what COVID-19 means for youth that have diabetes. And of course, we're here to raise awareness around this underlying condition, that being diabetes. So let's head over to the conversation I had with Tinotenda Zikiti for him to give us more information. Zikiti,
diabetes is very, very serious, like especially like in Africa, the burden is very huge. And that's why I think we are having such a theme where now the nests are to be incorporated to make sure that participation in their role is featured into the aspect, because people are not really aware. We are using our resources though to spread awareness, but of course, if you go to a grade 1, cannot even tell you what diabetes is, but he or she can tell you what HIV is. So diabetes is not much known by the people. So that's a huge case. So yeah. The burden is too much.
Could you walk us through the typical experience of what someone who has contracted diabetes would be?
Someone who has contracted diabetes, the experience, of course, the case would be someone who starts sweats, getting thirsty, visiting the urine, like most of the times, getting to the toilet more and more often, and of course, there won't be any pain, but of course, people, you would know that like this person is having diabetes. There won't be any pain, you're losing weight, etc. So yeah, because it will say that just the people just see you, I know that this person is very diabetic. But of course, 60% of the people in Africa, they do not know that they're diabetic, but they're diabetic.
Now, does this differ by age, or is just the same experiences across the board?
So mostly people that are type 2 diabetes is mostly from 45 years. That's the age range. Like mostly when we say person might be very, very risk from contracting type 2 diabetes. So that's the most case. Like, of course, type 2 is one that comes with poor living conditions, lack of physical activity, etc. So yeah.
Now, let us focus on the theme behind this year's I guess World Diabetes Day and World Diabetes Month celebrations. The focus here is the nurse and diabetes. The focus being focusing on the importance of the nurse and the role that she plays in helping people who currently survive with diabetes. What is your take on the theme of the 2020 celebrations?
Okay, so like I mentioned before, like in Africa right now, so I think Africa, across all the regions, we have 6 regions that are under the International Diabetic Federation. And Africa seems to be the only region with more undiagnosed cases. The people, they are not really out. There are associations that are in cooperation. The associations that do have to fight against such diseases, they are living out. And so we said, like, if only the patients others who know about the diabetes doctor, the burden will still be upon us, Africa. So what should we do? I think this should also be put of these, should play a critical role to fight diabetes, because especially like if people are to have a good blood control, if they are to be monitored and to be managed well, nurses would have to be part of it. So yes, it's actually a good thing. But of course, back then we used to go to after hospital to go and train the nurses, but then it wasn't having much impact. So now if this is now running an online course, which is going to run from October to December, and then the teachers would just have to take it free, and then they'll be given figures. So I think it's a good thing.
Now, Mr. Zikiti, looking at the current state of the Zimbabwean healthcare system, what do you think people with diabetes are currently going through, with the nurses having their own fair share of issues and so forth?
Okay, so right now in Zimbabwe, the issues like living with diabetes now, what they only know, especially now in Zimbabwe, because of the current situation, only people know how to manage blood sugars, but they only know to test their blood sugars, or either they know to inject themselves. But sugar diabetes is a multitask, like it needs multifactorial roles. Like someone would have to test, someone would have to go for blood sugar test, ketone test. So, but of course in Zimbabwe, someone cannot afford to have all those things. And like if you can check from across other nations, would have people with continuous blood sugar monitoring, where like it can just tip on your phone to say your blood sugars are going low, your blood sugar is now okay, so you can actually do ABCD. But in the case like Zimbabwe, we really need an advancement, especially if we start with awareness, and then the advocates would be much okay, because we'd have people that would be supporting you for whatever the cause that you might be advocating for. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's take a look at some of the prevalent things that are happening today. In 2020, we see the whole world has been massacred by COVID-19. And as I've had discussions with a lot of medical experts, one thing they highlight is a lot of people with pre-existing conditions are more prone to contracting and dying due to COVID-19, diabetes being one of them. What do you have to say about that?
Wow, about this, like, of course, oh, thank you so much. I think, of course, there are misconceptions, rather. Of course, even with the medical people, they do not know everything about diabetes, rather, but there was a survey that was taken. So the thing is, people, like diabetes alone cannot increase someone's risk of contracting COVID-19. Rather, but if someone with diabetes is contracted COVID-19, the thing is, it would increase you to contract other diabetes-related comorbidities like DKA, that is diabetic ketoacidosis. There are other like severe complications that would come upon with someone with diabetes. And of course, we can actually see the severe conditions of COVID-19 if someone is also diabetic, because your immune system might be very, very low. I mean, of course, this is just the case.
Mm-hmm. Now, with all that in mind, do you guys as an organization have any initiatives whereby you're educating people with diabetes who, as you highlighted, might not necessarily just be the diabetes that kills you, but you're still at risk towards contracting COVID? So are you educating people more on COVID to make sure that they don't contract and spread COVID?
Yeah, of course. Like in this era of COVID-19, things are not so much okay. And of course, back then we used to have sessions where people would come and we do a face-to-face discussion, focus group. But right now, we came up with an initiative to make sure people come together, like through social media platforms. We engage them, we teach them on diabetes education and awareness, especially with regards to COVID-19 and how it relates to diabetes. And of course, if someone with diabetes has contracted COVID, what are the severe outcomes that comes with it? So of course, it would expose you to other complications. Those are the things that we've been teaching people. And of course, through social media platforms, we've been writing articles, making sure people read about them. And if they have more questions, they come to us, then we discuss in the group to say, okay, of course, and some of us, even myself, I've been a victim for COVID-19. And it took me like for about 3 months until like I thought, okay, it was something else really, because I ignored the symptoms and then I didn't go for tests because I was nervous and stuff like that, of course. And mental health issues, people, like, they've been taught, because we saw that like due to lockdown and stuff like that, people, they have to go and look for medication in the hospitals. And then, but of course, thanks to our government, people were allowed actually to go and look for their medication. But the thing was, it was very, very expensive. And then having to fear about diabetes complications and also fearing of contracting COVID-19. So the mental health, people were actually disturbed. But of course, we tried so much with the people that we engaged with to make sure that such disparities are disarmed, and diabetes is actually disarmed. So with continued support from other associations and other organizations that are against the fight with diabetes, we have been doing quite a lot. So yes.
Tombobata nyaya nerurimi rwamai vadzikiti chirwere chediabetes ndicho zvatakunzirai pano pachirongwa. Ndachikumbira kuti mutsanangurire vateereri kuti chirwere ichi chirwere chiri serious here, uyezve pane vanhu vazhinji munyika yeZimbabwe here vane ruzivo ruzhinji pamusoro pezvechirwere chediabetes.
Tinotenda nemubvunzo wakanaka. Tichiona muZimbabwe chirwere ichi hachisati chava kunyatsova nekunzwisiswa kana kunyatsotambirwa. Zvinova zvinhu zvisingatifadzi, zvinoramba zvichiita tirambe tichikurudzira kuti shoko iri rizivikanwe. Ukada kutarisa iko zvino mwana chero ari kuhigh school, mwana ari kana form 4 chaichaio anogona kusaziva chii chinonzi diabetes, but asi mwana ari grade 1 anokwanisa kukudzwa chii chinonzi HIV. So izvezvi ndizvo zvinoita kuti tirambe tichikurudzira shoko kuti vanhu varambe vachinzwa kuti kune chinonzi diabetes chinokonzerwa nei, kana munhu achinge azvarwa ainacho anofanira kunge achiita sei. So ndo nyaya yatinayo, ndo burden yatinayo kumaafrica, kuti muafrica chete ndimo mekuti vanhu havana knowledge, havasi kunatsoziva kuti chii chinonzi diabetes.
Ndanchikumbira kuti mutsanangurire vateereri kuti munhu anenge abatwa nechirwere chediabetes anosangana nematambudziko akadii.
Okay, munhu anenge abatwa nechirwere cheshuga, matambudziko anoita ndeyekuti mushure mekunge abatwa nechirwere ichi, akasava necontrol yakanaka muupenyu, akasava nekutesta shuga, akava chero nemushonga chete asingateste shuga yachona, azvinge zvichimubatsira, anokwanisa kuita anonzi macomplications ekuita kidney failure, kutadza kuona nezvimwe zvakawanda. Saka anokwanisa, kana moyo wake unokwanisa kuita failure chaiwo. So ndizvo zvinhu zvekuti tinenge tichida kuona kuti vanhu vakaziva izvi havazokwanise kuwirwa nemamwe matambudziko mushure mekunge wawirwa nedambudziko rekurarama nechirwere cheshuga.
As we wrap up our conversation, what parting words would you have, especially for young people like yourselves who are currently living with diabetes?
Okay, my words. Okay, fine. Thank you so much. Okay, so to the people living with diabetes, I say, keep on keeping on. Make sure you test your blood sugar as well. And please just help somebody. If you have the technology with you, some people, they might not have it. They might not be hearing these things that we're sharing with you. Please share with the family member. As we said, 60% of the adults right now, they do not know that they're diabetic, but they are diabetic. And as of 2019, about 19 million people are living with diabetes as of 2019. And it is said that by 2045, 47 people will be living with diabetes. So, of course, I think we'd have to keep on sharing more information so that people would know and they'll become alert and make sure that they're doing the very good things to make sure that they stay healthy.
Tinotenda Dzikiti, member of the Zimbabwe Diabetes Association. Aiwa tinotenda zvikurusa vadzikiti nekupinda muchirongwa. Ntwakaso muhle Zimbabwe muhle liyazizwela ngempela osakhulayo owenhlanganiso Zimbabwe Diabetes Association ubechasisa ngempela okunengi mayelana ngomkhuhlane wechukela ngesingisi sithi i-diabetes. Yena osakhulayo lo umnumzana Dzikiti ubechasisa okunengi esithi abantu abake babanjwa ngalomkhuhlane labo hayi ukuthi they are more at risk ngokubanjwa ngalomkhuhlane, cha uthi lokho akusilona iqiniso, kodwa uyachasisa ngempela ukuthi ungabanjwa ngalomkhuhlane we-COVID-19 whilst you have underlying conditions such as diabetes. That's when you are more at risk ngokulahlekelwa ngumphefumulo or higher complications in comparison to other people who do not have underlying conditions. So bechasisa ngempela okunengi mayelana ngalo mkhuhlane we-diabetes or umkhuhlane wechukela. Tinotenda zvikurusa vadzikiti nekupinda mchirongwa. But whilst on the same discussion of COVID-19 earlier on, I said, nasi mchirongwa tungotarisa kuti chirwere che-COVID-19, tikutarisa nyaya yekuti chirwere che-COVID-19 chakanganisa sei upenyu hwevanhu munyika. Earlier on, we had Unkosikona Tiviti highlighting what's happening in Ngobulawayo, tabva kupedza hurukuro yedu with Tinotenda Dzikiti owenhlanganiso ye-Zimbabwe Diabetes Association. Bese singena-ke kule ngxoxo engiyenze lo Samantha Mrozoki. Now, Samantha Mrozoki is one of the other people that joined us tonight on The Connection. She is the founder of Kuchengeta Trust. Now, we've had Samantha on our program a couple of times talking about the progress that they've done with Kuchengeta Trust. This is a foundation that is feeding thousands of people by the day in Chitungwiza. So I reached out to Samantha to kind of get an update with what's going on with with the Kuchengeta Trust, and she gives us a little more info with regards to what progress they've made. To date, they're now feeding over 3,000 people per day. 3,000 people per day. So let's head over to an interview that I had with Samantha Mrozoki, who's going to break down more about what's happening with Kuchengeta Trust.
Kuchengeta Trust has been growing steadily, so we feed an average of 3,000 people per day now. That's about 1,000 people, 1,000 children in the morning for porridge, and the balance would be for supper. And we have engaged in a couple of projects, but mainly the poultry project, where we've been trying to generate an income for specifically the volunteers that have been coming through, and also to gain some form of sustainability as an independent trust. That has kept us busy and on our toes. We're actually in the process of selling off our second batch and working on getting the third batch so we make it for Christmas. It's been fun. It's been a learning curve as well, and we're only going up. From the last time we spoke, we've only been going up. We have setbacks where food shortages are quite an issue right now, because the part where there was a craze and everyone was talking about Kuchingitana Trust, we got a lot of donations, but when someone donates once, they feel they've played their part and then they move on with their lives. But we continue to still feed the same people again. So there has been a huge slump in the number of donations coming through to us. But we hope and we pray that we continue to get to the people out there and they continue to help us out as they did when we started the project.
Now, you obviously, I'm listening to the numbers. Now it's 3,000. The last time we were speaking, you were just under 1,000. Is this still only people from Chitungwiza that are coming to you guys, or is it now just open season? Anyone and everyone close by can come and receive food?
It's still people from Chitungwiza. We've been reaching out to people in as far as Seke Rural, and also people that are coming from other various units that were not accessing us. People had not found out about us before the time we spoke. So a lot of people have seen us on the news, read about us in the papers, and have found a place to, what can I say? Have found a place where they can get some help because of the coverage that we had. So obviously the numbers have gone up since the last time we spoke.
Now, which bears the next question being around maintaining the crowd. 3,000 people per day. Visiting 3,000 people per day is not an easy task. Obviously, we're working during a time whereby there's a global pandemic. You want to limit as many people that you can be in contact with. So how are you guys going around managing that?
So last time I explained the system that we use, that we have people scheduled. We give them times to come through to the kitchen. And this has worked marvelously well because they're so used to it. It's been months we've been doing this. So they come at a specific time. Our turnaround time to serve people is quite on point. We don't spend more than 30 seconds with a person. In fact, I think in 30 seconds we serve about 3 people. So our turnaround time is quite high, and we have systems in place, and people are really being troopers out there because they're not giving us problems. They follow the time schedule. They listen to the volunteers when they tell them to space each other. They wash their hands. We're trying to follow all the stipulations that have been encouraged by all the health facilities and all the professionals, rather.
They wash their hands. That's a very important part there to question. We know that water is a big issue in Harare. So how are you guys going about that?
Yes, we still get donations. We now have individuals that will come and pledge, say, water for the next month. So we know we're covered for the whole month. So we just take a bucket or 2, and we also have a sanitizing point as well. So we're still okay on that when it comes to water. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I want to go back to the projects, the self-sustaining projects. Could you break us down? Could you explain a little more on some of these projects that you have running? Because I can only imagine having to feed 3,000 people per day is not an easy task. And like you mentioned, donor fatigue comes up. So could you tell us a little more about these projects and how you guys are managing it?
Yes. So a couple of months ago, I realized that we had a slump in the amount of donations that were coming through to us. So I decided that let us look for projects that would include the recipients and also benefit them at the same time. So we raise these chickens and we sell them off. We get an income out of it so that we are able to buy, say, firewood or any ingredient that will be missing on that particular day or week. And at the same time, we realized a huge number of volunteers telling us that they could no longer continue with us because there was no incentive.
Right.
So I felt that the project in itself would then fund the incentivizing of the volunteers. So we sell them off, we get a small income out of it, and we thank them, say on a weekly basis, so that they continue coming through, because they could be elsewhere making more money, but they've chosen to spend time helping out the masses. So that was the main reason why I felt we needed to be self-sufficient and having some kind of income and not really rely on donations, because that beautiful period of donations has just has come and gone. So yeah, this is where we are. And now when we should be able to start training of making your green bar soap. We're going to have batches, I think maybe batches of 20 people, a training where they learn how to make soap, and we provide the ingredients that are needed so that we sell them off. Maybe mass production is what we're looking at. We'll sell them for getting income from it, and we still continue to feed the masses. Rather, instead of cooking for them at the trust, they are now able to gain an income that will actually allow for them to walk into a shop and buy whatever they need for their families. So this will reduce the number of people that are frequenting the kitchen, and will have less pressure and more of an empowered people in turn. So yeah, that's what we're working on.
So in such a circumstance, have you also increased the amount of volunteers that you're working with?
We haven't increased per se. We're still on the 23 volunteer mark. They have come and gone, but we always get more volunteers and try to keep it at 23, because I'm not trying to overwhelm myself with a huge number of people looking at me for an allowance of some sort when we're not yet there. It would have been lovely to have even 100, because there's always a lot of work. We start at 4 a.m. and we end our day at 6 p.m. So it's a lot of hours with very few people, and we handle a lot of heat with the fire and a lot of cutting of tomatoes, onions. It's quite taxing, but we're dealing with realities. We cannot have as many people as we would want to have as volunteers.
Now, Samantha, I remember at some stage and point when you initially started the whole kitchen itself, you had issues with the local government, and then they helped out. Are you still receiving any help from local government, or what's been going on since then?
So the municipality of Chitungwiza asked us to regularize the trust, so we became a trust officially.
Right.
And they gave us a few conditions that we need to satiate at a certain point in time, so that we wouldn't have any friction with them. So that was to get the COVID screening done and food handlers test done, and also just to make sure the place we're operating from is clean and up to standard. So we worked on that. We did the COVID screening, and we've had no problem whatsoever with the municipality of Chitungwiza. And yeah, so life is going on perfectly well for us.
Okay, now I'm about to reach an end to our conversation here, Samantha. However, I am a little more curious in terms of the amount of people that you're helping. If there are people outside of the Chitungwiza area, are they also allowed to come receive food?
Yes, very much so. I've had instances where I've had to go and deliver maybe groceries to certain families that are not in Chitungwiza. We have people in Epworth, Hatcliffe, and 2 families in Budiriro that we go and help the best way that we can. If a person is to come to the trust with a lunchbox in hand and telling us they need food, we don't turn people away. We'll question them, obviously, to establish how many people they're collecting for, so that it doesn't affect us in the future collections. So we still welcome people, no matter how little the food is. We try to ration it and make sure that everyone that comes to the kitchen gets something, because we're of the thinking that for someone to come and stand in a queue and experience, it's such a humbling moment. So for someone to come there and say, I need help, I should be able to open the doors for them and not shut them out. Where you come from has got nothing to do with the fact that we're humans and we need to eat and we need each other.
Now, Samantha, tukona kuti lockdown munyika pamakatanga kitchen yenyu matatu pasi pechirongwa chelockdown handiti zvino tukona kuti lockdown hatingati yakusvika kumagumo asi restrictions acho anenge ari kutichinjei. Makatarisira kuti muchange muchiendera mberi muchibatsira vanhu here nangwe zvikanzi alright mangwana lockdown yapera?
ndiri kuona tichiramba tichimboenderera mberi, but kuenderera mberi kwedu tichange tichiedza kuti tibvise vamwe vatiri kuona kuti vakukwanisa kuenda vachinobata-bata kana kutengesa madomasi kana kumbomhanya achipinda mudhorobha achinoita zvaaimboita kusati kwane lockdown. Tova tazosara zvedu nevechikuru, tine vechikuru vanobva kumakore ana 65 kusvika ku108 vanova vanhu vanouya kwatiri. Ava vanhu vekuti nyangwe lockdown ikanzi yapera kana kuti yatanga vachada kuramba vachiwana rubatsiro. Saka vanhu vatiri kubatsira vakadzikira nepadiki tinokwanisa kuti tichitora mari kana maresources atanga tinawo takuchibatsira vanhu tichiti aiwa chitorai munobika mudzimba dzenyu, aiwa chibatai pakamari kadiki apa muchinoita zvamaisita makare, toramba tichingovacheka on. Saka ivo nevana vadiki vasisina vabereki, vasina vanovariritira kana vanovatarisa, ndo vanenge our main focus.
Okay. Tichipete edu hurukuro yedu Samantha, kune vanhu vazhinji vachida kuziva kuti kuchengeta trust munoita nezvei, uyezve kana vachida kukubatai vanokubatai sei. Saka ndanchikumbira kuti muvatsananguriro pachidiki muchivatsanangurira kuti alright, kuchengeta trust munoita nezvei, uyezve kana vachida kutsvagawo rubatsiro vanokubatai sei.
Kuchengetana trust musha unobatsira vanenge vari pakunetsekana, kunyanya panyaya dzekuwana chikafu. Tinoti rudo pamberi, tichibatsirana nenzira dzatinokwanisa. Kana pana ane dambudziko, kana kuti kana pana arida kutibatsira kuti tirambe tichibatsira vane matambudziko, vanotiwana kuchitungwiza. Tiri pa 20926 unit A extension and Chitungwiza. Kana kundifonera parunhare rwangu pa +263 78 670 1002. Ndo namba dzangu zvekare dzinowanikwa kana pa EcoCash kana pane ada kuti atibatsire tirambe tichiendera mberi nechirongwa chedu.
Ko vari mudiaspora vanokwanisa kukubatai sei?
Vari kudiaspora panhamba dzandapa idzodzo dzinowanikwa zvekare pa WhatsApp ndiyo +263 78 670 1002. Vanokwanisa kunibata pa WhatsApp ndovapa madetails manyorerwo ezita rangu pachitupa kuti zvisazonetsa. Vakatitumira mari tinokwanisa kuti tambire neWorld Remit kana kuti neMoneygram. Imwe nzira yavanokwanisa kutibatsira nayo ndeyekuti vanogona kuenda pamasaisai votsvaga vanotengesa chikafu, vanozouya vachitisiyira kudzimba kumba kwedu kwatinova ndokwatiri kubikira. Saka nzira dzakawanda dzoti vanokwanisa kutibatsira nadzo, hapana chisingashandi.
Hayi, sithanda ukubonga uSamantha Mrozoki ngokungena kuhlelo ngosakhulayo wenhlanganiso kuchengeta trust. Aiwa tinoda kutora mkana uno mukutenda muzvare Samantha Mrozoki nekupinda muchirongwa wanga chinyatso-tsanangura kakuti ndivo ka vane sangano rekuchengeta trust rikubatsira vanhu vanodarika 3000 kuchitungwiza nema-areas nenharaunda dzakasiyana-siyana dziri pedyo nekuchitungwiza. Vari kuvapa chikafu, vanovapawo breakfast, vanhu vanouyawo nema-lunch box avo akasiyana-siyana vachizowanawo ka mukana wekuwana chikafu. Saka ndiyo ka nyaya tatinayo muchirongwa chedu chevechidiki tichikurukura namuzvare Samantha Mrozoki. Now, Zimbabwe mushe, even worldwide, across the world, Zimbabweans are playing a crucial role in helping against the fight against coronavirus. Even here in the United States of America, we reached out to just before the elections of the United States of America. I reached out to a young lady based in America here who's doing amazing work. She runs the only Zimbabwean kitchen, the only Zimbabwean American restaurant in the United States of America. Achitengesa sadza, achitengesawo zvinhu zvakasiyana-siyana zvekuZimbabwe. Uzwelibanzi Moyo Williams is one of the people who actually was on the campaign trail with the president-elect Joe Biden, and she was on this trail talking to President-elect Joe Biden about different things pertaining to how some of the work that they're doing at Zweli's Kitchen, whereby they are a very community-oriented organization. So coming up next, we're going to have an interview or a conversation that I had with Uzwelibanzi Moyo Williams last week, just before the elections, where we were talking about Zweli's Kitchen and the community work that they're doing. Let's head over to the interview I had, Lozwed?
Zweli's Kitchen it's a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
We are a restaurant and catering company. We serve Zimbabwean cuisine.
Mm-hmm.
We serve sadza, brovos, piri piri chicken, collard greens with peanut butter, we oxtails.
Mm-hmm.
We just here to provide a different kind of cuisine and to introduce, people to our Zimbabwean culture.
The only one in America. What is that like?
Yes, I'm hoping someone catches on because this is awesome.
How? You know what? Other people to take your business.
No, I mean, hey, you know what? It's not competition when we can work together. We can work together to conquer this. So.
That's awesome. Now, as I was reading on Zweli's Kitchen, I stumbled across it because, of course, the whole hype that's around it right now. You guys, you yourself were recently on the campaign trail. The Democratic candidates, Joe Biden. Could you tell us a little more about that?
Oh my gosh, it was an unexpected, experience, a surreal, experience. It happened so fast, so quickly, because with these things, they don't tell you until it's time to tell you because of security reasons. So we didn't know, the whole time what was going on. We were just told to be in Tennessee,
so
know.
Just hi, can you come to Tennessee?
Yeah, we were just told that we were invited, by Joe Biden to attend the event. And when you say invited by Joe Biden, we're thinking, okay, maybe we represent the small businesses. We're gonna be sitting with the small business owners, and all that stuff. We support Biden, of course, but we just didn't know the magnitude, of the whole thing until we actually got to the debate and we were escorted to our seats. And our seats were like, I was sitting next to Joe Biden's wife and granddaughter. So that's when I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? So yeah, that's how it happened. Yeah.
So as I was reading more on Zweli's Kitchen, of course, and this incident itself, one of the things they seemed to highlight was they picked Zweli's Kitchen because of the amount of work that you guys do within the community. Could you tell us more about the work that you guys have been doing in your community to help people to the point that someone campaigning decided, that's the business I want to ride with? Right.
So I'm not a politician myself, like in any means. I'm not, I'm a chef, I'm a restaurant owner, but my husband is very heavy in politics. So we do a lot of community, and he's very community focused, community driven. So we do a lot of community events here in the restaurant. Like we hosted the Bloombergs. We hosted someone else, Elizabeth Warren, in here. And the next thing we were planning on doing was hosting Biden, which my husband works for the campaign. So with the community efforts that he does, I think there's one that really struck the most to a lot of people's hearts was there was a community in Durham where we live where it's public housing, and the houses that the community lives in, there was cases of carbon monoxide, cases of kids having died, from carbon monoxide, and we took on the community by providing meals and by being the main place where donations were being sent to. We were cooking food for more than 1,000 people, a day, all in, just, helping and hoping that everyone will, catch on to what we're doing, like for instance, other restaurants and other organizations who would be able and willing to help. So, not just us wanting to do everything, but, it's community driven, it's for anybody, to step in and, be able to do what they can. So that's where we started. And from that, we were able to serve, I don't know, thousands and thousands, of meals, and to, get donations, food, clothing, whatever it was, to that community. And it like I said, it, struck the hearts of, many people. So from there, COVID happened. And, with COVID happening, it was very difficult for us to even, open, not even for a day. It was like waking up every day to the same situation, to the same dilemma of what are we gonna do next. But we just relied heavily on, we're gonna get up, we're gonna go to the restaurant, and we're gonna help whoever is in need, and whatever happens will happen, but this is our objective, because we don't have customers coming in. So we ended up serving about 47,000 meals to senior citizens and to communities, that needed any kind of help. So, and I think that's how we ended up in this Biden thing. I'm not, but my husband also works, with the campaign, helps out with the campaign. But that's how we ended up, on this track.
Sithanda ukubonga uZwelibanzi Moyo Williams, isilwane seZimbabwe esihlala lapha kwele Melika. She is the founder of Zweli's Kitchen. You heard there for yourselves, folks, feeding over 47,000 people under COVID-19. So that's some of the work that she is doing in her community. As I mentioned earlier on, Zimbabweans across the globe are helping in the fight against the global pandemic, not just for Zimbabwe, but in the different communities that they live in within the diaspora. Once again, as an update, this program is pre-recorded. However, during the time that we were broadcasting, the COVID-19 figures stand as this: over 8,400 confirmed COVID-19 cases. The death toll is currently at over 250. And of course, the confirmed recoveries currently stand at 7,900. Muri Zimbabwe tashika kumagumo echirongwa chedu chanhasi asihlanganeni kuhlelo lwethu labasakhulayo, same time same place, phano pachirongwa chedu chevechidiki. Muineni Mike Hove. Thokoza muhle, Zimbabwe muhle. Bye bye.